Okay, fairly serious topic here today. You can see Moses is taking it quite serious. Selective harvest. Oh, here he is. He's jumping up. Selective harvest of fish and preserving genetics. Now, as a muskie guy, I'm total catch and release on that. But believe me, harvesting fish and eating fish is not a dirty word. I've been doing it for years. I love fish. I could eat fish 3 nights a week. But obviously, you have to be careful about it, not over harvest, don't be a pig, but also understand the way genetics work and fish systems work. And essentially what you want to do is you want to practice harvest in a way that's most beneficial to the fishery and makes the most sense. For years, we've kind of ignored, and here in northern Wisconsin, I've literally seen it, we've kind of ignored the basics of genetics when it comes to our fish harvest. Probably the most profound effects I've seen is with the panfish populations here since I was a kid compared to now. There's a lot of places where panfish, bluegills, crappies, perch, where we used to have really big fish in the population, there are now a lot of fish, but they're stunted. You can't catch nearly as big a crappies or bluegills as you used to be able to. And that's simply because of harvest practices. And very simply, what most folks have done over the years is especially if you're catching a lot of fish, you keep the big ones and you throw back the little ones. Makes sense, right? You got the better fish, get a little more meat that way. But the bottom line is it does not work well for fisheries, and it's not the way nature really works well. You want to preserve those bigger genetics in the fish. And I actually interestingly, I had a human example of genetics here just this past week. I was out fishing with the benchwalls. Now they're big guys, and they're great people because they fish, obviously. But anybody who's a Wisconsin Badgers football fan would know these people. Scott is the father. He played for the Badgers in the 80s. He's a big dude. His son, now Bo, was the starting guard this year for the Badgers, did tremendously. And you have Luke. He's a freshman, I believe, playing tight end. And then we had JP, who's 15, playing in high school. Lord knows what he'll do. But I want a picture up here right now so you can see these guys. It's not very often I'm looking up at people and feel tiny. But you'll notice one thing about these guys. They're all really big. And if you seen them running around on the ice, you'd see they're all so fast. And it's a good genetic strain for Wisconsin Badger football, let's just put it. Now, people like that and fish that are like that are actually kind of the same way. They tend to be, if they're big and fast and strong, they tend to be fairly aggressive. So if let's say these bench walls are down underneath the water and there's hamburgers floating around out there, believe me, these boys are going to get to the hamburgers first. If there's tofu or granola or something like that, the smaller fish might get there first, but they're going to get there. The bottom line is if you want big fish in the fishery, you want to protect those guys, even though they're fairly aggressive and they might be the first ones you catch if you're floating a hamburger around. So, but very seriously, this is really what we want to do when it comes to harvest of our fish. So generally what you do, whether it's northern pike, which is a species I keep a lot of, and quite a few panfish, you want to kind of try and target the center of the size structure, okay? In a lot of cases, this is what slot limits do, imposed by fisheries people, is they're trying to target the middle of the size range where there's the most fish in that size range, right? Basically, letting the bigger fish go. That's getting to be common knowledge. You want to let the big ones go because they're prime genetics, right? But the thing where you want to really pay attention that isn't talked about a lot yet is that obviously you can have a younger bench wall that's coming up through the ranks. So let's say when I'm out pike fishing, for instance, we've got a lot of stunted pike fisheries around here. I eat a lot of pike. I generally keep fish from 20 to 30 inches, somewhere in that size range. And if I'm keeping fish in that size range, what I do differently, besides just understanding the measurement range I want to be in, is I look at the body of that fish, and I'm looking for a prime genetic strain. I want to keep the exact opposite of what tradition has been. I want to keep the fish I think are lesser genetic specimens that kind of skinny. If they're sickly looking, maybe you don't want to go that far to eat a sickly looking fish, but you want to consider taking out, the moderate fish, the ones that don't look all that well. If you see an exceptional fish, doesn't matter if it's a crappie, bluegill, northern pike, if they're built like a brick, if they look strong and solid and the head on the fish looks small comparative to the rest of the body, that is a faster growing healthy fish. That's probably a more aggressive fish. So let's say you're keeping 7 to 9 inch crappies in a fishery, or again 20 to 30 inch northern pike. As you're sorting fish out that you want to keep, if you see one that looks like an exceptional genetic specimen, those, even though it's in the range you would normally keep, you want to put those back in the fishery, because overall that's going to be better for the fishery's size structure, and overall you're going to have more of those fast-growing, aggressive fish that remain in that fishery, and you're going to have opportunities for bigger fish.